on and I have a bunch of notifications saying server is overloaded. But I think that's because when I logged into this profile, it prompted me to update to the new Facebook layout. And I think the new Facebook layout, something was congesting. So there's a slight delay between this and the Facebook group. And since we are 15 minutes late, girl, I'm crazy because Morgan was supposed to be hosting this, but because of my fault, I scheduled this on Tuesday and she said she could do Wednesday. Probably should just gone ahead and pushed it over to Wednesday because clearly we're 15 minutes late. And it was a struggle trying to log on. It was just a struggle. Okay. But welcome to the last live discussion amongst ourselves for Eloquent Rage, which has been a great read this month. So just FYI, I'm going to do a post tomorrow. I don't know what's going on with Facebook. Look, I feel like there's over 800 members now in the group. Maybe 100, sometimes 80 people see the post that I put in the group. And the newsletter, maybe like half of the people, 400 people, like actually open the newsletter, which isn't bad, right? I hope y'all can hear me. Let me know. Comment. Let me know if y'all can hear me and everything is okay. I hope I don't have to just like talking into the the ether. But like Facebook keeps trying to prompt me to like pay so people can see the post in the group. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. So I don't know how to get people to see the posts more, but we are a little behind. The April read is going to be Homegoing by Jouelzy. The syllabus is up on the dashboards for the insiders and available for purchase for everyone else. But we're going to kind of take our time from here on out, transitioning into the reads. And we're not going to stick too fast and hard to this whole idea that much going on and so many moving pieces. And since we are kind of late in announcing for everyone else, the April read, we want to give people enough time to be able to purchase the book, obviously get it in the mail if they already have it on their shelves. Use my Audible link and go ahead and get that first free month of Audible because the library is no longer accessible. Unfortunately, this sheltering in place is really going to like impact a lot of us in just so many different ways. But let's go ahead and get into this discussion. Let me see if I can see the comments. Audible because... Okay, let me silence myself. Okay. Thank you, ladies, for letting me know you can hear me. All right. Hopefully you guys have the syllabus for this. Samantha did an amazing job. This is what we're going to be referencing. This probably won't be that long of a discussion because it was a little unplanned on my part. And I will say, when I initially read this book, I didn't really make it to the end. I have now made it to the end. But when I first read it, I got to Orchestrated Fury. And I was just like, it felt repetitive for me because I just agreed with like so much of everything. And it was just so familiar. And I felt like some of the ways in which the book was written was obviously to bring in people who this air is not going to stick in my ear. The weave getting in the way, my bad. Yeah, I felt like some of the ways that the book was written was to bring people unfamiliar with these concepts in. And it was like, girl, I get it. I get it so much. I ain't even got to finish the book. But with regards, again, to the engagement, Dr. Cooper has agreed to come in and do a live chat discussion. I need to follow up on her and confirm the date and time. But I'm a little concerned because, like, we need people to pull through on the group. And also, I want people to submit their questions. So I'm going to post. If you have questions that are specific. Ooh, okay. No caps locks. We're not mad. To Dr. Brittney Cooper. We'll probably get her. We were trying to get her in the group this week, but we will probably get her to come and do the live chat next week, probably end of next week, which is again why I'm not trying to rush into the next month read. I think because people like life is really hectic for a lot of people. We just want to be mindful. And the book club was meant to be evergreen. And we have people joining because now I do reviews of the books on YouTube, and the Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost review actually did decently, all things considered, because people don't really watch book reviews. But we got a fleet of new people in the group, and I think people are just trying to catch up and figure out how we're structured. And we also have the complex theory, Black feminist thought, which is a great companion with this. It's a little bit more, you'll definitely learn some words. All right. You'll definitely learn. It's not hard to read because the language isn't antiquated, but the sentence structuring definitely gives you a new educated way to explain the day-to-day things that we face as Black women. And I think it'll make a lot of sense for a lot of people. And there's a PDF version that's posted in the group. We've sent it out in the newsletter. I will send it out again. So you can just grab the syllabus and get the book for free. And we're reading 2 chapters, so we're making it super easy. So join the Eloquent Rage one. But okay, let's get into Eloquent Rage. We're discussing chapter 10, which is Love in a Hopeless Place. Chapter 11, Favor Ain't Fair. And 12, Joy. Now, I do think these last 3 chapters, I think they're just so snap, that don't leave us behind, Tanisha. That I lost my train of thought. Let me get back to it. No questions have been submitted. So just ask. Don't worry about duplication, please. I don't, this book club is not meant for anyone to worry about saying things that people have already said. It's not to be worried about, are you smart enough? Are you bringing something new to the table? Nope. I want you to ask whatever your heart desires. I want y'all to post whatever is on your mind with regards to the readings. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't gotten more posts about Eloquent Rage because there's so many talking points. But Sula had everybody posted. Sula had everybody like, girl, what the fuck am I reading right now? Eloquent Rage, I think people feel a little like hesitant to express, or maybe they just agree with it so much. It's like, yes, let the church say amen. All right. But no questions have been submitted yet. So again, please post your hearts away. Why aren't the questions updating on? Okay. So I can see who's, because on my side it's just showing Facebook user. Yeah, if you would like to join this chat, and please, because this is a bit of an oopsie mix up on my part, do join if you would like to add discussion. Okay. I've added the link if you want to be added as a guest to contribute. So let's just get into it. Okay. So in Love is a Hopeless Place, Dr. Cooper writes that only 49% of Black women with college degrees marry men with some post-secondary education. 58% of married Black women, college graduates, marry men with an overall lower level of education than they have. Moreover, more than 60% of Black women, college graduates between the ages of 25 and 35, peak childbearing years, well, damn, my woman is old and dusty now, have never been married. Because who wants to be? Compare that number with a mere 38% of white women for whom this is true. So how much of your dating preference is influenced by political, racial, and social identity? I would say for me, someone like myself, a good 95% of it. And I think because of that, because I've had to reckon with the fact that the intersection of my identity and my politics and my ethical beliefs means that I'm just not going to cower, that I had to deprioritize the societal message that I needed to partner with a man intimately. And I tried it and it was trash anyway. So, but how do you guys, when you look at how you enter into and we're engaging in dating and your preferences, how much of it is influenced by political, racial, and social identity? And I feel like, as Dr. Cooper expresses, that a lot of her identity comes up, and even when she's attempted to are you saying because of the way I move specifically? But yeah, I think Dr. Cooper, these are definitely front and center for her. I don't know why the comments on here are not loading on Facebook is acting real fugazi tonight. I don't know why it wants to be disrespectful. Okay. I mean, because obviously, as she expresses in this chapter, that she really hadn't, she got to a point in life where she had not centered or put this high value on like romantic partnerships. But there is a different expectation between Black women and white women in how we engage in the dating world. And it's like, yeah, okay, so as Brittney's saying, let me add your comment here, that she's saying that for all women, that automatically placed upon us because of the way we move. And I think, trying to survive as a Black woman in America, there's no way for you to tap out of the racial or political things that impact you being a Black woman and remove that from your dating life and how you entertain romantic partnerships. Mm-hmm. So on page 226, where she's going on this rift, right, about how she had really set up so much of her life so that she would not end up a single Black mother, that her grandmother is constantly, now that she's come of age, is refrating to her that you could have a baby, you don't have to get married. Or her pastor's wife is saying this. She's saying with every rant her mother reads on Facebook, her Facebook page, about how brothers need to decolonize their minds, divest from patriarchy, cease and desist with the bullshit. My mother can feel her grandmother status slipping from her grasp, all of it going the way of the few viable eggs that my post-35 body has left. Well, I'm 35. I'm probably going to freeze my eggs because we ain't carrying around this guilt or shame. Nope. No. Brittney says, if I could loosen up and stop being so mean and ornery, which is a Southern speak for one who takes herself way too seriously, then maybe men could warm up to my charms. All the Cooper ladies mean well, but on feminist principle, I have to reject any advice that blames sisters for the lack of partnering options. So if it ain't our fault, then whose fault is this shifty state of affairs? I blame Bill Clinton. She blames Bill Clinton. She blames Bill Clinton for the social circumstances. In his first 2 terms in office, they are most singularly responsible for the structural devastation of Black intimacy and the piss-poor state of Black love, generally among all of us born after 1980. The presidential election of 2016 became a referendum on Hillary Clinton's support of the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, which her husband signed into law during the first term as presidency, and we are fitting to elect the man who wrote the damn bill that fucked up all our dating lives, one Joe Biden. Yeah, but then she goes into like how the influence of the crime bill and the devastation that happened to the Black community, for most of my age group, for most of us millennials, has left us with a really bad dating pool. I would go back even further and say that imperialism and colonialism has fucked up the dating pool, because the bitch done been to West Africa. Let me tell you, mass incarceration ain't happening in our crowd, and baby, the dating pool where there's more men than women still ain't good over there. It's like, wow. Okay, I just have to keep. This is annoying that the comments are populating on my end. Okay, so Fatima says, so much of my personal experience is all that, and the older I get, the more I find ways to put words to what I'm struggling with. The complex layers are just on top of each other. I have the added layer of being an immigrant's daughter who is just getting around to the idea that it might be okay to date outside my tribe when I'm 34. Yeesh. You know, I was thinking of that, like, you know, like looking at like a Yvonne Orji, right? Yvonne's a year or two older than me. And she's got on radio and very specifically said not only does she need to partner with a Nigerian, but she must partner with the Igbo man. And it's like, girl, I thought I was bad because I need somebody that's dark skinned. But you getting down to real specific ethnicity, tribal affiliations, ethnic affiliations, and then you also need to find someone who's single, who has similar politics to you, whose patriarchy is not going to get in the way of you guys having a fruitful relationship. Like, bless your heart, sis. Kenyatta says, I believe we do a huge disservice to ourselves when we settle for partnerships that aren't yoked with our finances, beliefs, and family traditions. Absolutely. I also think we do a huge disservice to ourselves when we believe that the intimate partnership is going to be the best relationship that we have out of all of our relationships. And I've said this time and time again, you know, this is what got me into trouble with the hypergamy movement, was I think that a more diverse range of relationships, friendships, career, acquaintances, social relationships, you know, having people that you can talk to about work, having people that you can talk to about the various aspects of your life, and not relying on this idea that the person you partner with has to be your everything, because we are imperfect humans. And like this idea that you cannot center your sense of self or your value on who you're able to partner with romantically, because that will just have you fucked up in the game. Let me tell you. But also, and I think, you know, obviously this other movement that exists oddly on the internet and on YouTube took it as me telling Black women to settle, but it's like, no, absolutely. Don't settle for someone who is not equally yoked to you. And I think when you don't focus so much on the singular idea of a romantic partnership, and you have a diverse range of bountiful relationships in your life, then it is easier to uphold your boundaries. Because the problem is, a lot of us set the boundaries. We have a hard time upholding the boundaries because we feed into the societal pressure of what it means to, oh my gosh, be the boogeyman of the single Black woman who eats niggas for breakfast. I think that comment went back to Brittney is saying that comment went back to how some women don't validate other women until they have kids. I mean, yeah, I mean, we see this again and again. This pops up in so many movements that are targeted at Black women across social media, where we don't see, where we create these value systems that say, I value myself over you. It's scarcity politics, right? It's essentialism. There's all these political terms for it, right? Where we say that in order to be seen or to be respected as something, you have to meet all these standards, right? So how dare you be 30 and you ain't got a man? How dare you be in your 30s and you don't have kids? Well, you've never been a mother, so you can't understand the full essence of being a woman. And we place all these ways to devalue people because that's how we put value into ourselves, and it's bad. And it's very harmful to the community. Kenyatta is saying it sucks because you have to either consider dating outside your race or tolerate one less favorable characteristic of our male partners, or get a bunch of cats and be chill. I mean, I'm allergic. I'm definitely allergic to cats. So I just got me a bunch of friends, a bunch of homegirls, and we be there for each other. Don't take dating advice from me though, because I'm a whole ass basic bitch. I had therapy today. Does your education level impact your dating preferences? And does your feminism, your Black feminism, or your womanism affect your dating preferences or Black women's love life in general? Yes, because I have mentioned this book quite a few times. Erinette White's. It's a qualitative study amongst Black men about how they came into their understanding of Black feminism. And one of the points she makes in the book and concludes is that dating a Black feminist is difficult and that we have to just own it. We have to own that the idea that we want partners who are going to divest from patriarchy when they have no incentive to, and in particular for Black men, their one way in which they can reap any benefits of patriarchy is within the household, is within their romantic relationships, right? And so when you are asking someone to take that extra step to let go of the one arena in which he actually can benefit from patriarchy and to do the labor of being a better person overall, I mean, whether you even frame it as Black feminism, and I do for myself, but you could have any set of like ethics where you're actually take this. It doesn't have to be about feminism, right? If you're asking someone to make a commitment to kindness, you are asking them to do a higher level of labor than they would have to do, because a lot of us are told that relationships are simply meant to make us comfortable. And that's where we end up. I'm sorry that I have to keep refreshing to see everyone's name. Natasha is saying that the Clinton theory is interesting, but I definitely feel where she's going with it. I'm a 39 divorcee, so directly in that age group. Yeah, I mean, I think the Clinton theory is interesting because what she's really saying is the crime bill of 94. And I think there's a whole apparatus that got us to that crime bill. And what really made that bill so effective is state politics. So there's a whole cultural movement, again, that got us to that point. So I don't know. I mean, I get it in jest and in reading. It's like, oh, ha, 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 Bill Clinton. But yeah, I think societally, our dating pool sucks because of the political apparatus that surrounds us. I think because we live in a carceral state, we live in an imperialistic society. And even when you leave America, you try to go to other countries, Black majority countries, to date, and it don't really get no better. You know what I mean? You think you're going back to the motherland, and it's like, dang, y'all niggas lie different. I gotta learn how to like read y'all lies. Woo, this is hard. And the patriarchy, you know, and then the religion and the Christianity. Like, you know, we have a little bit of progress in the Americas. And it's just the way that colonialism left such a heavy hand and really built these feudalistic societies that have these hierarchies that really do no favors to Black women or Black queer folk at large. It's the politics. The politics make dating. I could do a whole stand-up comedy set about imperialism and dating and how it manifests itself, right? Because one of the aspects is, right, as an educated Black woman, as a Black woman of a certain means, people will look at you crazy if you date someone, maybe not so much in the States, but I was thinking about this when I was in Accra, because I spent, almost 2 months in Ghana. And I was kind of surprised because there are more men than women there. And the women are gorgeous. But the way the society is structured, the women still get the short end of the stick because it's a very religious society. It's a very Christian society. And it's also very much so like, oh, what's your last name and what part of town do you live in? Oh, I know your auntie. And men will really be like, you gonna date me and then go date my homeboy? Okay. Like, they just mad flagrant. But again, that comes down to this idea that like men could go to they can go back to like the village and pluck a girl who doesn't have the same access to education, because there's a hierarchy, right, in society there. There's a whole hierarchy of like Ghanaians that have had access to Western education, whether going to school in the UK or the States. Then there's the other niggas that like go to Russia or China for school. Then it's the niggas that just have the locally acquired foreign accent. Then it's the other niggas, right? But the men, no matter what like education level, no matter what access level, can go back to the village and get the girl who doesn't have the same means as them. But the women can't do that because then, the way you expect your man's supposed to provide for you, right? There's this whole sort of societal pressure that comes from you dating outside of your social class. And we see it manifest, the same here in American society with this whole like, well, leveling up. Like, how dare you find someone who potentially meets all your needs, but to the visible to society doesn't seem like they can provide because of what we believe a provider should be. It's just all these societal structures that make dating difficult for us. Oh, let me see who left this. Oh, hey, Erica. It's okay, girl. I was just saying at the beginning of this that, we are going slower on purpose because we want to give everyone time to catch up. All right. Fantasia said, it's so hard, though, when everyone around you is invested in prioritizing their romantic partnerships. Even if you aren't, I find myself in a cycle of having really great friendships until my friends become partnered. Because a relationship becomes the center of their universe, and because I am not partnered, I'm received as bitter for not having a man. And, unfortunately, this is something that does arise. I know I've had the privilege of, because I've lived in metropolis East Coast cities, and I have a large swath of single Black female friends who aren't really invested in partnering in the traditional sense. And who are also very conscious when they do date that their friendships mean a lot to them. And we both give each other the space to, date and do whatever you need to do and, be whoever you want to be with that man. And also to still be good friends to each other and just understand that, there's seasons and, everything ebbs and flows. But I have a homegirl who, like, with her best friend is having an issue because her best friend ended up in a relationship and, everything, the man became the center of the world. And it's not even like, oh, I'm upset that you're single, that you're in a relationship and I'm not, but it's like, when you center this person in this way to the point that everyone becomes less than to you, and then he go hurt your feelings. It's like, girl. But that's a societal thing. It's because we keep having this message, right? That when you enter into a romantic partnership, that should be the top tier of your relationships, right? We don't talk about democratizing your relationships and putting them on a playing field where they can all be valuable in your life and they all serve different purposes. And it's like, not to say every relationship is going to be equal to each other all the time, but that sometimes this relationship comes in this area is very important. And sometimes this relationship in this area is very important, and that they can all properly meet our needs. And we don't abandon the fact that in order to be really happy, emotionally mature and happy and fulfilled people, that we need these diverse relationships. Kenyatta is saying that not education that's impacting her dating life or dating choices, but definitely her sense of motherhood, Black womanhood, and my strong prayer for somebody worthy of my submission and ready ability to lead. All praises Jesus. Yes. I mean, it's hard. And that's the thing. Like, I think sometimes when we talk about like this Black feminist approach to relationships, that it's, oh, well, you can't be religious. And I think as you see in Eloquent Rage, Dr. Cooper is very invested in the Black church. The woman who helped me with my PhD application, Takia, is really close friends with Dr. Cooper, and she's very, very into the Black church. And one of the things that in doing the research that I was doing for my PhD app around the activism of Black women is, even though I myself don't identify as a religious person, I understand the value of the church and the Black community. And there definitely is a history with the Black feminist movement that understands that value and understand those that decide to lead their lives that way, and that you can both be a Black feminist and be a very religious person. And that this idea of your Black womanhood and your motherhood and wanting to have someone that meets your standards and not bending on that or dumbing yourself down for that is, the praxis of Black feminism. Erica is saying, like I said, there's always something diminishing our dating pool. My mom, who is 67, has never been married, jokes that her husband died in Vietnam. She's still looking for her match. She's still the happiest person I know, though. Yeah, and I would say, you know, again, Vietnam is imperialism, it's colonialism. You see, we can't get away from it. And I was having this conversation with my homegirl who, you know, after the fallout with my relationship, and she was dating a married man. And I was like, you know, it's like we shade our mothers. And it's like, you know, maybe not me and my homegirl so much, but even in the discourse around, again, like this leveling up movement where like, oh, we want to create this narrative that Black women have historically chose less than partners. It's not true. Like, you know, we are making some of the same choices that our mothers made, and we might have snubbed our nose. Or like, oh, I'm not going to be my mom. I'm not going to be single. You know, I'm not going to let men do X, Y, Z to me. And it's like, baby, first of all, that pot of audacity that niggas have is never going to run dry. All right. And it's very little that you or I can do to stop someone from wanting to tap into it. That's all on him. And you know, the cycles repeat themselves because we don't have the means to change the societal structures that impact our day-to-day lives. I can't stop the wars. Natasha is saying, provider expectations based off of societal expectations scares me for us. I feel like I have realistic expectations, maybe because I was married for a decade, versus my single friends who seem to think their partner should alleviate all of their stress, specifically financially. And I will say, entering into a relationship, you know, I'm a whole new bitch. One of the things I realized is that not necessarily that my politics had to change, but a lot of the things that I had absorbed via social media, in particular to like the Twitter discourse around relationships, I had to let go of because they didn't function. They didn't actually work, right? In how we deal with each other when emotions and the complexities of being two individuals, being two Black individuals of certain means and having families and all these other things that do come into play in your relationship. And then you add this whole Twitter discourse standard of, oh, I would never pay for a man's meal. It's like, you know, some of this, a lot of that shit got to be let go. A lot of that ish. All right, let's move on to favor ain't fair. How do you deal? Well, Cooper asks on page 260. Okay. We all turn. It's not, is it 260 in my book? Ooh, we dive deep into the chapter? Yes, it is 260. How do you deal with our guilt when we are the ones who achieved in a system that is intentionally set up for most Black people to fail? I would love to hear how you all would respond to this question, because there are different ways in which we all have been able to achieve, right? Because the system is not set up for the Black community as a whole to achieve. So my ability to live on my own is an achievement that a large swath of my community doesn't necessarily have access to, even though, again, people be bored and will hop on Twitter and be like, how dare you be over 20 and still live with your parents? Baby, we are all poor, okay? We are headed to not a recession, but a depression. And the last depression lasted, well, the Great Depression technically never ended. We just reimagined what debt could actually be and moved it over to someplace else. So here we are, about to hit another one, and it's like, oh. Ooh. Let me know, how do you deal with the guilt of achieving? Okay. When so many of our community can't achieve like us. Okay, so, and I wonder if people actually think of that. Like, because I think some of us, this narrative again on social media is, oh, I did it, and let me monetize and replicate, thinly veiled webinars about how to do what I did. And like a lot of people don't, I don't know if people don't realize, but I don't see a lot of acknowledgement of the privileges that allow those of us to achieve while keeping everyone else out. All right. But Danisha Blake is saying, as someone who doesn't really see it for the Black church, I grew up Kojic. I found myself being able to appreciate how she navigates being, in her words, a church girl and a Black feminist. I agree with you that I can see the value in the Black church and faith and understand the critique in the work that Black feminists and womanists do to offer critiques of patriarchy within the Black church. Absolutely. And, because I can't, okay, everything, girl, that's why I gotta stop saying it, because everything is like the shit I see on social media, right? There's somebody who's another YouTuber in who I follow on Twitter who is constantly railing against Black people in the church. And I'm at some point in time, I'm gonna have to pull him to the side and be like, I get the traumatic experience that you had, and I get the harm that was done to you growing up in a Southern Black Baptist church family. But you have to understand that up until like recent history, the Black church was the only safe space for Black people to gather. It was that or the beauty schools. You know what I mean? Like, niggas was getting bombed out. I mean, the churches, obviously. I mean, that's what makes when violence happens at church, when racial violence happens in the church, makes it feel so invasive, right? Because the church, for all the criticisms we can have of it, for all the work that we can keep pushing for, to push against the patriarchy and the respectability politics that often are very strongly pushed out in the Black church, that we can also understand that it has been one of the only safe spaces historically for Black folks for centuries. And I'm a fan of James H. Coney, right? Who talks about liberation theology and, how we can both how we can understand a religion that was used to oppress us, and also a religion that has largely been a salvation for a large swath of our community. And it's okay. We can always, there's a delay. You join it in at any point in time. We can always go back to a previous point and allow people to gather their time to answer the last question I asked. All right. So Cooper was asking, in Favor Ain't Fair, how do you deal with guilt when we are the ones who achieved in a system that is intentionally set up for most Black people to fail? Are people even acknowledging, are they cognizant of their privileges that exist within? Let me know. Then she says on another point she makes on page 260 is, when I experience these kind of accusations from other Black feminist women, typically it's mean girl shit and jealousy masquerading as a radical critique. When Black women do it to Black women, it is a way to deny Black women the authority of being legitimate theorists and decision makers within the Black communities. Do you think there is validity in radical critiques regardless of the mean girl shit or jealousy? Or do you think it is generally detrimental to feminist principles? I would have to say that criticism, loving criticism, respectful, compassionate criticism is one of the foundational tenets of Black feminism. And we cannot think that just because we look like each other that we are going to have the same shared experience and that we are above critique. But the problem is, what is that? Is it the criticism coming from I want to knock you down and take you out, or the criticism coming from I actually want to see you do better and I want to help you and I want to facilitate that doing better? What responsibility, if any, do you think middle to upper class Black women have towards uplifting the Black community, considering the information from the chapter? Oh, we have to go back to the chapter prior. What was that? Chapter 3, Bag Lady? Oh, in Bag Lady, she really kind of gets into the politics of the intersection of being a Black woman and this sort of traumatic baggage that we are labored with, this sort of desire to survive. Kenyatta says, I've had some great wins and terrible losses. The problem for me is reconciling my achievements within my family that have a certain view that I'm different or changed. Listen, leaving my very segregated city, Milwaukee, has been the catapult. Why did I get tongue tied on that? Has been a catapult to being able to come into my own woman. And I'm not mad at that. But I find myself being more subtle when I go home to visit my folks because I don't want anyone to feel away. I mean, but there's also just, sometimes you just want to have a good time. And sometimes you don't want to be bothered. And it's like, you can come into yourself and embrace these more radical, what is seemingly at one point in time was more radical politics that are now becoming the norm. But then realize that everything don't have to be an argument. Everything don't have to be a push for change. Everything don't have to be, and so sometimes you read the room. But I mean, I think also just be mindful not to keep the peace at the subjugation of your own peace. Aha. Okie dokie. We got, I know I started late, but I still got other work I got to do. So we're going to have to log off at 8 o'clock. This one going to be a little short. But definitely the pinned comment, please leave your questions for Dr. Cooper. We're still going to discuss Joy. Wrap that up real quick. But we really want to, I would love to have a very meaty, dense conversation because this book brought out so many comments from the crowd. All right. Feel free to answer any of the questions, because there's a slight delay, but I'm going to keep moving on until I see more comments populate. So in the final chapter, Joy, Dr. Cooper writes that what you build is infinitely more important than what you tear down. What brings you joy in a world that continuously harms Black women? Who are the positive female influences in your life? And how have you reconciled or coped with difficult relationships, past and present? All righty. Let me refresh so I can see who wrote it. What brings you joy? Sorry. All right. So 2 comments we have here. So Erica is saying, I think acknowledging your privilege is important. For me, I constantly remind myself that I'm nothing special. Girl, you something very special. We all special though. There are a lot of girls that look like me that came from the hood too. Staying humble is the most important thing. Don't eat too much humble pie though. You are allowed to feel yourself and celebrate yourself for sure. And giving back when you can. Yeah, I think there's a fine balance between humility and celebrating our achievements, but also understanding the privilege that allowed us to reach those achievements. Oh, did I put the wrong comment up? Okay, this is from Fantasia, who's saying, I want to bring up the fact that older Black folks love overachievers and play a huge part in perpetuating beef between the Black kids who perform well and those who don't. Using the smart kids as tools of shame against those who struggle academically. And the smart kids eat it up and actually start to believe the hype. I'm definitely going to pop on Instagram live after this because I wanted to have a discussion about how comparison can be the death of us and the ways in which we manifest the same. To your point, yes. I was actually watching someone's video and they were talking about how old people love them because old people love an overachiever, and that made them feel proud. And I mean, yeah, but also you have to understand how that puts us at odds with other people, and it creates this sort of stratification, a class stratification, right? Against people that never had an opportunity to begin with, right? Like a lot of kids who are overachievers have certain structures around them that allow them to be overachievers, right? Because you can run yourself into the ground real quick. And so using this idea that, because like there's this whole This American Life did a whole season around the education system and actually following what structures would need to be put in place, because we've constantly heard this refrain that education is the gateway to like a better livelihood. But what actually needs to be put in place to allow kids to really not only access a good education, but survive in a good education? And many of us as first generation college students intimately understand this idea that we can get into the good schools, but, when you don't have a home to return to, when you don't have financial security within your household, when your parents are sick, unemployed, when you don't have a support system, simply getting into the good school is not enough. And, when those same kids who might overachieve without the actual support system around them end up burning themselves out. It's crazy, right? So let me pull in these. Sorry, I have to keep refreshing. This is so annoying. just to see. I don't know what is up with Facebook. Natasha is saying, I have never felt the guilt, to be honest. I have found myself trying to drag my cousins who don't have the same privileges that I have had. And I literally tried to force 2 cousins into applying to 2 tech colleges today because I know they can get in during this COVID-19 with some schools suspending test requirements. I'm sure they would prefer that I chill, but I always want to help. So maybe it's guilt. I mean, it might be. And I also think something that I had to learn was that, like, sometimes the best way to lead a horse to water is to not expect a response. It's to just show them the pathway, to say, hey, I'm always here and I want to do this respectfully. So I'm just letting you know, and give them the space to think it through, right? Because when you force and you pressure people into things and they don't really have the ambition to do it in the first place, it can build resentment. But also, if you're saying, hey, I'm here, I like with my own sister, I did be like, you should go back to school, but I understand it's difficult. And I understand I'm the suggestion I'm making is a big sacrifice on your part. So, like, acknowledging the sort of hurdles, and if there's ways you can help offset those hurdles, by all means, be that person. Okay, absolutely. Who is this? Ooh. Erica is saying, absolutely, all the ills of society are reflected in the public school classroom. I say this as a 13-year high school teacher. And Natasha is saying that she learned this with her youngest daughter, who is super artistic and less academic. I had to learn to shift my perspective and praise her for what she's good at and valuing effort. Absolutely. I think particularly the Black community, because we still as a whole might have a stilted view on what success can look like. Maybe now it's expanding. But, when I was growing up, everything was STEM. I got no love as a Black girl that was into the arts. None. Everything was not just STEM, but it was engineering. And everything was like trying to push me in. And it's like, no, I like reading books and I like history and I like music and I like culture and I have all these talents. Like, I play instruments. I'm a good writer, and I would love someone to support me in that instead of ending up in summer camp for engineering. And so I'm hoping that we're slowly but surely evolving to support, a diverse range of talents in the Black community. All righty. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for your patience. I really hope you enjoyed this read. Again, we are reading Homegoing. Yeah, Jesse, we have to send out, we're going to send out a newsletter tomorrow with the updates. We're not done with this book. So if you haven't finished reading, don't stop, but go ahead and order Homegoing if you don't already have it. Use my Audible link, audible.com/Jouelzy, if you want to sign up for a free month of Audible and use that to get Homegoing as your free book. It's a super easy read. It's one of my favorite books. But we are hoping to get Dr. Cooper in for a live discussion in the next week. So go ahead, post all your thoughts in the group. If you just hitting something and it's raised a question mark, post it in the group. We can keep dialoguing about Eloquent Rage for the next 5 years. It's fine. It's great. Definitely grab the syllabus. A lot of the questions that I asked, I were pulled directly from the syllabus because it was a really, really, really good syllabus this go around. They're all good, but this one was particularly very thought-provoking for Eloquent Rage. And again, please submit your questions so that we can have a really poppin' discussion when Dr. Cooper pops in. I hope I have an Ethernet cord, girl. Bitch had to take it back to 9 to 5 and get her Ethernet cord so the quality, so you can see me, the little bit of melanin I got and all. All right. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm gonna holla at y'all later. Deuces.